Yeah, hello everybody. Thank you so much for coming to this debate discussion of the first day of the EMAMI 2024, Empowering Artists Minorities. And this is an open discussion. We want to set up a topic. This topic today is the commitment that the museums mainly in the USA, because there was much more information about it, has been done about how to proceed to create more diversity, equality, and inclusion in the art world. I mean, after the Black Lives Matter movement and the pressure of the media on the society, on some artist groups, the museum started to doing some commitments, some actions, yeah, in relation with bringing more diversity, equality, and inclusion in the museums. So there was a very interesting article that they was following these commitments, and it will be we thought that it was very interesting to discuss this what the museums are doing now and what we could suggest to the museum that is more to do and could help them to make better decision making in this relation and to build more day in the middle long term. Yeah. So, and I will read and comment some of these commitments to start. And if anyone want to participate after that, yeah, we can open the mic to give your opinions. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. The things are, if you want to continue or to be active in the discussion, you just put the button which is on the bottom of our screens and come onto stage. So or just if you want, for example, to switch on your video, you can. You can ask your question or your meaning or thought orally or writing in chat. So the discussion is directly connected with I think, two main abbreviations, yes, with DEAI and EDI. So I have just sent the link about which is for the article David mentioned. And what's interesting when we read it, I think it's always important for us from what we started and where we go. So these 2 years of changings have now made a great effort. And as I can say from my side, I think while many US museums have now made a step in progress by diversifying collections, leadership, comparing different practices, these efforts must be evaluated. So it's okay, but it's not well enough. And when we take this floor, it can be supported with even small initiatives, but now maybe we need to be more attentive working with trainings and with developing different models, how we can be in the context of global art marketing, art initiatives, and museums as the first and maybe one of the crucial figures of this scape, of this area in this sphere, but at the same time have exact action plan for smaller groups and especially working with the optic and zoom of minorities. So I remind you our main three lines of this discussion. So are these commitments which were made in these articles connected with creating and establishing EDI? Are they going to the right direction, or what is the right direction? Who can say us what is the right direction and what are the theses for them maybe? And if you have any talks, ideas here about commitments and maybe puncts in these commitments, I invite you to share with.
Yeah, maybe Anna, maybe you can mention some of the commitments that the museums made. Yeah, I mean, I read,
Mhm.
I read it, and this is was, for example, that all the museum employees take courses about anti-discrimination and anti-racism. Yeah.
Yeah, and also to expand the percentage of representatives in leadership, leading positions, to present more BIPOC artists and cultural workers, and to expand the accessibility not only in positions but also in decision-making sector. So I think this is one of commitment, one of the main commitment. And also I think that museums these 2 years, and this article also said about it, have made a great step in not only from staff membership but also in collections. So this can be dual way of work, from one side with professionals and from the other side with the representatives, I mean artists who are now in the collections in these museums. So speaking precisely about contemporary artists, they also include close communities with contemporary artists and their close surroundings. And that's why we have lots of other, it's also the commitment to diversify their types of work with the audience. And also that one, the fourth, which I highlighted, is how we need to change the levels, how we can transform the exhibitions, which engage deeper the community of minority, minor artists. So, and what, David, you also find the most important in the commitments?
I mean, one of the things that I take my attention in this when I read it about all this and in general about what the museums are making commitments about they is that, and this is something that is from my perspective, is not very well decided or defined. What does it mean to be a diverse museum? And what does it mean to be an equal museum? What does it mean to be an inclusive museum? Yeah. So uh, there is no a clear starting point, yeah, or there is not a clear goal, yeah, where you can define, yeah, now we make all this commitment, now we implemented all these strategies, but how to measure that, how to really define that we are doing. If we put it three people green, three people blue, and three people rosa, then we are now diverse. I mean, this is not very well defined from my perspective, and another point that is I mean, in the 2021 we made also a conference in a happening in a museum in Mexico, and we put together five directors of museums to talk about this kind of problems. And one of the things is that there are no curators, and something that Sharon in the last speech he mentioned it. Yeah, there are no curators specialized in the artwork for minorities, for minority artists. I mean, I come from Mexico, and in Mexico, it's specialized. If the curator specialized in contemporary art from origin from indigenous, yeah, backgrounds. Yeah, and and this is what this is a lack of also of information, yeah, or a lack of profiles that has to be um, also engaged and supported. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi,
Please
Sarah.
welcome.
Hi. I didn't I didn't know how should I raise my hand in this
It's,
platform.
it's okay. It's okay. You can enter. Yeah, no problem. No
You
problem.
just yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, First of all, I'm so sorry. I was the first speaker of the conference and I missed it because of the electricity shortage problem today for a week now in Iran, and my internet was unstable. So I'm sorry, everyone. I'm really sorry. But I just wanted to add that the one of the problems I think is that because you mentioned because you mentioned that how can we evaluate how much the museum incorporate EDI and how much they incorporate the minorities. I think one of the measures we can take is that I think there are two main branches in terms of incorporating minorities and the others. One is that, for example, in Germany, Germany's European museums and galleries, when they invite others from other countries, especially from like Middle East or something, to exhibit their artworks and give them some voice. The other one, but I don't think it's it. I don't think it's that influential. I think it's just a nice gesture. I think the main, and there's a second branch and second way, and it's that in each country, in each community, we can fairly say how much the percentage of each minority in that community. For example, in Iran, we can fairly say like we have 10 million Afghans in Iran and like other 10 million Turks and as such, different people. But in the Museum of the Modern Art in Tehran, in its most recent exhibition, it was called Eye to Eye. It was a collection of portraits from different artists. What I saw there was that it was 100% white and male, like Iranian white people from the capital, from Tehran. And I saw the same thing, the same problem in the Australia, according to the Australian. It was an official report. I don't remember the organization's name, but the indigenous Australians, they were making a lot of artworks, and they constitute a big part of the community in Australia, and also they are making money from it. They are producing revenue from this and benefiting the country and the economy of the art in Australia. But when it comes to museums, the roles of curatorship and such, they are not given the chance to be in those roles and to participate in museums as huge as they are. So that was my point. I think it's fair measure to say at least if, for example, the 10% of a community is African, so it must the museum staff and like the exhibitions in the year, at least 10% of those artworks, of the revenue, of curator roles and everything, at least 10% of that should be uh, should be like should be Africans. If you know, there should be a fair relation between these numbers, I think. And also, when measuring ADI, I don't think countries should be allowed to count whenever they invite people from other countries to have exhibitions in that country. I don't think that should be counted as EDI. I think every country should start it from their local community, because they are the ones that paid for that museum to be constructed. It's their land and it's their right. It's like kind of human right. And inviting people from other countries, that should be just secondary, which no one, like, I don't see that much. That it's not like museums ask their people. They are taking being a museum as granted. Like, it's not like Museum of the Modern Art in, for example, US ever pull a survey and ask Americans, at least the Americans in the city that the museum is constructed, they have never asked them, okay, what do you want to see? They just throw exhibition after exhibition and just nag about why people don't participate. It's culture, why people don't come to museums. Museums are not boring. You just don't understand it. Maybe it's you that don't get it. But the easiest way was just ask people what they want. And I think it's the other problem, like looking away from the local people and the community that you're living to escape. I don't know why escape, but maybe because it's too hard for those white men to accept the reality of this much unjust, and they just want to look away. So that's why people are looking away from the arts world, from the museums. There isn't the hype that it was used to be, like in the 70s, in the 80s, and before that. There was a hype about paintings and especially about paintings, painters, artists. When you look at you can easily identify the art of 80s, the art of 70s, but you cannot identify the art of 2010s or 2020s. So I think looking away is just a big problem too. That was what I think. That's it.
So thank you, Sarah. Yeah, David, you wanted to have a couple of phrases now? And we also have the desire Mark to speak in this discussion. Because hello.
Hello, hi, how are you doing?
Hi.
Hello, yeah. This is really interesting to hear what Sarah had to say.
That the mic is not working very nice, so we are hearing you in very low and background noise loud.
What? You can't hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Oh, you can hear me now?
We can.
Okay. Well, it's fun. I was worried because my camera is actually broken. The microphone works well. So tomorrow, when I do speak, I'm using a different laptop. I was just saying that it was interesting, firstly, to hear from Sarah, which I had to say. I think, if you don't mind me saying, those are the sort of things as maybe Western professionals, experts, we don't get perspective or understanding. So it was really
Mark, we cannot hear you. Can you put your close to your mouth the microphone?
I wonder if it's one of my settings. How can you hear me now?
A bit better, yeah.
Okay, well,
If you speak louder, yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
okay. If I start shouting, hello.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was I if you got anything of what I just said before, what I was saying, can you hear me now? Good. Okay. Brilliant. If you stop hearing me, do a signal or something. But I was just saying about Sarah is interesting because to hear from the point of view of Iranian art and how it works, because it's perhaps not, we don't hear so much as Western professionals for all sorts of reasons. But the reason I wanted to come on stage to get involved in this debate is to see coming from the UK. I don't live so. I live quite close to London, an hour on the train. And, in Britain, whether it's true or not, it's up to you guys. But we often boast about we're a country like no other, etc. I think when it comes to museums and public museums, we focus quite a lot on how we do museums in this country. The focus tends to be a lot more about social justice and equality and diversity. In fact, I think it's fair to say that in museums over here, we're almost under pressure, if you like, to talk about, to think about, and to do projects and initiatives related to EDI. In fact, under our sort of guidance and policies, all museums have to oblige by accessibility and inclusion. So there is a minimum requirement for things, but I think the debates, should I say, over here is always about, are we going far enough or are we going quickly enough? Because I think over the years, certainly in the last 20 years, more has been done in terms of making EDI in art and in public collections and museums. So a lot of bodies, authorities, whether it's the Arts Council, Museums Association, they would really prescribe to what we're talking about and what we're saying. But I think the point is, are we doing it? How well are we doing it? Yeah. So I think certainly it goes back to David, what you were saying about how do we measure quality, quantity, how we measurements. Can you still hear me okay? Yeah, okay, good. So yeah, it's I think more of the problem for us on this side, in this country, is probably more of the private art market, commercial art market. That's, although I think although I'm not as experienced in the private markets, obviously one of the main barriers might be the people themselves. One's thinking, do we want to prescribe to this method of making art more accessible, or do they want to keep it as it is for their own interests, their own selfish interests? But also at the same time, I spoke to an art dealer in London recently, and I hope this is relevant, by the way. He told me something very interesting, and I mean this with all the sensitivity, but obviously, if you all recall, in America during the pandemic, there was that tragic case with George Floyd, who was murdered by the police, and that started the Black Lives Matter movement. And during the Black Lives Matter movement, what was this art dealer in London told me is interestingly enough, art that was made by black artists or from different ethnic minorities, suddenly the market started to turn and works started to sell by artists who came from more of that background and are projecting very activist, politically motivated art. So I suppose that's another debate altogether, if it's a good thing or a bad thing that the market has trended towards a very emotive subject. But I thought, given that knowledge, it would be quite interesting to share it with you and the organisation for Bundeskunst, not Bundeskunst. It's been a while since I did my German, something Kunst. Hopefully you heard most of that. Thank you.
Yeah, we tried to hear you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Sarah. I'm really agreed with Sarah's thought about percentage. And what I see, being also immigrant here in Berlin, for example, and working closer with the art institutions, especially with contemporary art galleries, I see that it's like on air or in fashion style to have open calls for minorities and artistic minorities groups. But when we try to understand how exactly these emerging artists or young artists, they can be on display in these same galleries, which open call them almost every month. And I know several of such artists who constantly try to be in this row of who can be presented on, but they have lots of refusals, cancellations, and at the same time the procedure of how people can be selected even for special open calls with special topics, it's unclear, so it's not transparent. And I think one of the main issues is also how to make this procedure, not only selecting artists or even trying to build the communities with such artists, how to make all this procedure transparent. So when I, for example, read this article or other articles going closer to this topic, transparency is kind also out of the brackets. So sometimes when we establish mechanism, action plan, etc., and only after we try to make it evident for all of us. So I think, and also at the same time, I have my idea visiting, for example, Art Basel this summer, and I see how this coming, as also Sarah mentioned, how it is coming as a trend. Just it's also kind of trend to represent such artists, but how to be deeper, how exactly to involve the culture, this all native themes and topics, not just because this is the representative, but also to build closer these educational and satellite programs of these museums. So this, thank you especially, Sarah, for my continuation of thoughts, which I have now had.
Yeah, like 1 week ago, I was talking with the director and organizer of a very important here art festival called Northwind Festival. And precisely, she was talking about that to receive a support or the supports were very focused on the political agenda. Yeah, I mean the people who provide the funds for the art projects here in Berlin, uh, they they decide which kind of minorities of which kind of people has should be supported. Yeah, and for example, yeah, if there are actually no very clear which are the minorities who are here in Berlin. In Berlin has been wells of people. There was Cubans and there was Croatians and there's a big Turkish community and there was a lot of Russians also. And then there come the Syrian people, many artists from Syria. They come from Ukraine. So there are some, but I mean, at the end, yeah, they are here. They live here, but the politicians decide which kind of minorities or which kind of people based on the political agenda. If we don't feel, or the project or the artists don't feel this political agenda, they don't fit into this kind of funds and supporting. You know?
Yeah, may I add something? You, thank you, Mark and David. I think that was a great point. And Anna, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Was the pleasure is all mine. Also, I wanted to add that, well, three things. First, for example, when we do have an exhibition that is including all minorities, like just imagine there is an exhibition in a museum, all like maybe in Berlin, and the exhibition, the percentage are aligned with how much of that minority, how many of them live in Berlin, and just imagine that is aligned well. One of the things that we can say, I think, that if this exhibition worked or not is to measure the different people with, if minorities are actually attending that exhibition, like how many of them. I think one of the most important question is that who are we marketing this exhibition for? Like, who are the audience? Are we the target audience for the exhibition, like the ones that we are marketing this exhibition for, are there those same white people? And are we just display these artworks as an exotic thing, as a foreign thing? It's not foreign. If you live in Berlin, if you're an immigrant, like for years you're living there, you even if it's not for years you're living there, and your art is not for example, it's not Assyrian art anymore, because you cannot separate the environment that you're living in from your art, from the artist, from the person. So it's not like it's not a circus, that's kind of they are treating art from minorities like it's some exotic, different other thing. That's my other problem with the marketing of the exhibitions, and I think the the audience should be measured in order to say if the exhibition was successful or not. How many Syrians attended that exhibition, and how much we marketed for them, how much we spread the word between them. For example, in the neighborhoods that Syrians mostly live, or such things. I think that can be measured too. It's easy to measure these things, these factors, which are usually overlooked. Also, I think one of the solutions is that make it the white people problem. Like the minorities inclusion in the art world is like it's minorities problem. So maybe we should ask ourselves, and one other question plus the many that we're asking ourselves right now, is that how we can make this their problem too, so they would be motivated enough to make this change, and to just don't look at it as someone else's problem. Yeah, that's it.
Can I respond to that? If you can hear me.
Sorry, can you talk a bit louder, Mark?
I'll try. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to get this thing checked. It's getting old, I think. I was just thinking of everything you said about the mix of communities in Berlin, and I think it's much the same in London. You can put on all kinds of exhibitions. Your example of the Syrian community, Syrian artists, you put on an exhibition, but are the Syrians themselves actually going to attend? I think raises the point that what the nature of art is, and what the nature of the art world is. And quite frankly, it's bourgeoisie. It doesn't matter if it's a Picasso exhibition, whatever kind of exhibitions that try to be diverse. It's operating it's all these EDI art exhibitions, projects are operating in sort of a very kind of upper class and exclusive circle, I think. So, I mean, that inevitably is the problem. Is it doesn't matter if it's art and the people who like art and attend art exhibitions are that select group of society. So I think if we go back to what Sarah just said, how do we make it so this isn't just an exhibition for, you know, the white people, the middle classes? And I think certainly from the work that I've seen, good practice. Not only do we put on these exhibitions, but I think more has to be done to make them more than just exhibitions, you know, community places. Sharon was saying in Israel that he puts on a hub for his, forget the term, Israelis. You know, you have to, I think, what I'm trying to say is, on top of exhibitions, you have to program a centre of events and engage and work closely in order to actually attract those people that we as we want to do to make it attractive for them. I'm sorry that my sound isn't working. It's quite annoying.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Mark. And I think really the problem, one of the many problems, is that people tend to not understand that public museums, galleries, libraries, they aren't the property of white people. They are for the whole community, and this community, the way that it's constructed, it changes over time. So maybe once there weren't any Syrian in Berlin, but the Public Museum of Berlin maybe is, I don't know, I just say it, like more than 100 years old. And in the beginning of the start of that of the work of that museum, maybe there weren't any Syrians there, but it was for then. Right now, what's going on now is that Syrians they're living in Berlin, therefore they should have a voice, and they should have something to do with it. Like, they are not the audience, nor the exhibitors, nor the curators, nothing. And is this intentional, subconsciously, to say we are still the same Germans as we were 100 years ago, and these people do not exist? I think many people, like, whenever you want to conceal something, you want to pretend that it doesn't exist. Like, you want to conceal women and you want to say they don't exist. Or whenever a country, usually Iran is like a fine example of this phenomena, that whenever they want to report some statistic on something, they manipulate the numbers just to pretend the problem does not exist. So do you think minorities are the problem? So you want to pretend they do not exist? Or are we willing to be more honest with ourselves as a community, as people? Like, maybe for everyone, the hardest thing in life is being honest with ourselves and see the reality as it is. Because it makes us uncomfortable. It happened too fast. We didn't have a time to digest it. But maybe art is a way for a community to digest the change. We should dissect it and then digest the change. We should help the community, like the people, the Germans, also the Germans that are living next to Syrians. Maybe they are traumatized by this change. Maybe it's hard for them to digest the change. So who should be here to facilitate this change? Isn't this part of the art world's kind of responsibility to mirror the reality, the hard facts of reality, like what happened in World War II? The artworks were horrible. They were like, I mean, by horrible, I mean they were like scary, because the facts of the war, they were scary, they were hard to look at, but they did it. They needed it. They all needed it as a trophy, maybe soldiers. When we look back at the artists of the World War II, many of them are the ones that's been in the war, or they are the ones that lost the most. And like, there's a woman, one of the most famous paintings is a woman who is hugging her son. Yeah, her. And it still connects with us all. Like, we don't want to repeat that ever again.
No.
Or just maybe we want it. I think it was valuable at the time for everyone to feel they are not the only ones who lost their sons in the war.
Well,
The loneliness can make us all go crazy. So
well, interestingly, I mean, you bring up World War II, Sarah. I mean, when it comes to perceptions of World War II, if you ask the British, they have a very different perception. If you ask everyone else in Europe, especially in Berlin, and I mean, you talk about the art that was created then. I mean, at the time, British artists were sent on commissions to record what was going on. So I think art produced in World War II is obviously has all that emotive and everything you just said. But it's also interesting to ask who the artist was at the time, because that can give different connotations, especially if it was, Henry Moore, who was a famous British artist. He did so many paintings of the air raid shelters and the people. It's exactly what you were just describing. Interestingly enough, and I perhaps should have said this sooner, but talking of the Syrian community, ironically, I'm actually half Syrian myself. So it's an interesting topic for me, and I get everything you're saying, and I think in the same way as Syrians living alongside Germans, I can only say, if I speak from my mother's point of view, I think it's more that becomes a lot more of a political issue, because it's, I suppose, from her point of view, it was all about assimilation and fitting into what the culture was at the time, which or whatever. And I suppose immigrants coming to countries where I hate to say it, but countries where often not welcome, I think it's fair to say people are very, I think, I mean, the whole point of difference scares people, and that's especially a shame with migration. And what I'm trying to say is the problem with that is, I suppose, their whole culture starts to sort of subside. They're so, especially when they've come here, they're under pressure to work with the systems that are here and the culture that is here, that their own culture gets missing in the process. And so what I'm trying to say is, these people who can offer so much in terms of understanding and interesting stories and heritage through their art are so used to suppression in order to fit in that's a problem in of itself that I hope we can agree is recognised, and that needs a solution to encourage.
Yes, thank you. It was very interesting that you're half Syrian. I also wanted to add that there are taboos, like no one can say if they are a fascist, okay, or if they are a nationalist, and they are not given a chance to speak. So it will be suppressed also, on top of everything.
As well as a communist.
Yeah. So why, if someone is a quiet hardliner fascist conservative, they are worried, and they should also given the chance to speak and show their art. So the community, I think, I think we were all scared of repeating the problem of fascism, that we are not willing to talk about it. Everyone can feel something, like you can feel fascist at times. You need to talk about it without shaming it. You cannot shame fascism out of someone. It's the most stupid way to do it. They should be allowed to talk about it. What?
I was just sorry to interrupt you, Sarah, but what I wanted to add is exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, it still exists. Fascism.
Yes, it will. It still exists, and artists are the bravest in every community. They are the ones that go above and beyond. Like they are always the ones that breaking taboos. And one of the problems in the art world right now is we are all afraid. We think we broke all the taboos, like about nudity, about exotic cultures, or about like picturing a sacrifice or something. But the taboo that we think that we broke, it wasn't a taboo anymore, and it's not a taboo anymore in today's world. Maybe it was a taboo in 19th century, depicting a naked wife of the painter. Maybe it was a taboo then. It's not anymore. So we are looking for taboos, and we see that in pop artists of, especially in the US, like they dress in the red carpets, or whenever they want to make a music video, they just want to do something new, and they think, oh, there's nothing new, so they do some like crazy shit and stuff. But because they cannot find anything new, maybe the taboos are changed. Like fascism is right now a taboo, and I think it's not fair to, for example, Germans who are live next to the Syrians. They are afraid of those Syrians, but there is not a place for them to show it. So we can all be happy and pretend that Berlin is safe for everyone, welcomes everyone, and everyone love each other. We're all one big happy family. It's not gonna work that way. So artists are afraid of that. Museums, exhibitioners, like galleries, we're all afraid of the reality that we're living in. So maybe we should change that. And maybe it's a way of making it the white people's problem. Maybe if they can understand the danger that is threatening their white people too, maybe it would make it their problem too.
Yeah, it's. I must admit, it's interesting hearing you say all that, Sarah, because I think the last thing I was expecting to hear in the conference about contemporary art and EDI is a more profound idea of fascism. So it's enlightening to. I don't mean that. It sounds funny, I suppose, but yeah, it's well. I often think about this because from what I understand, being British myself, as political experts often say, there's more than just the English Channel that separates Britain and the rest of Europe, and that wasn't even in reference to Brexit, leaving the European Union. I think probably in Berlin, certainly in other countries in Europe, whether you're in Paris or Rome, the political discourse has often shifted. I think it's quite different kind of political atmosphere because I think a lot, I mean, hopefully this is relevant, but often it would surprise a lot of English people to know that, Mussolini's granddaughter was actually an active politician in Italy. I mean, so I suppose what I'm trying to say is that you're probably onto something, Sarah, and I think that you're very brave to talk about it, but I think it's something that needs to be taken seriously and spoke about maturely. I think there's so many topics which are way too. Often the most taboo topics are the ones that keep coming up, and unfortunately, every time they do come up, people will automatically say, "You're wrong. You shouldn't say that. You shouldn't talk about that." But I mean, the more you suppress, the more the wrong type of people start to gain popularity and things. So, if I don't know, to give you a more specific example, I mean, maybe I'm speaking ignorantly here because I don't know too much about German politics, but I think I know enough. Maybe for all the reasons you were saying, Sarah, the reason that alternative Third Deutschland is gaining so much traction is because of all this taboos and stigma you all just mentioned. If I'm a bit out of line for saying that, I hope that's not too controversial to whatever. I don't mean anything by that, but I hope that that's a welcome, not welcome, but that's a set. I'm saying that without any. I don't mean anything negative. Like, I don't want to be enemies, or you know what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to add to the debate.
Good. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you so much, Sarah. Yeah. I think now we have finished the debate from today. Yeah. And yeah, we will make a break now, 15 minutes, and then we will come in 15 minutes back for the next round of the speakers.
Can I finally say, I'd love to talk to you more about this, Sarah. Let's email.
Yeah, of course. That would be an honor.
Brilliant.
And also a pleasure. Yeah, of course. And I just wanted to say that you should not apologize. Like, why do we apologize for what we say or what we think or what we feel? Like, we're humans. Like, we're not prophets. We're not like the complete depiction of humanity. So we may be wrong, we may be right. Whatever. Like, we should not apologize for what we are. No one should.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Yeah, and we see us in 15 minutes for the next speaker round. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
See you
Ciao,
later.
ciao.
Thank you.
Yeah.